Norris destroys Verstappen in Dutch GP. McLaren implements updates with results to match illegalities. Statistics prove it. Norris can still beat Verstappen in the championship. These and all the latest Formula One news, here on F1 Today. Lando Norris surprises and dominates the Dutch Grand Prix. McLaren's young talent Lando Norris defied all expectations by winning the Dutch Grand Prix. The Zandvoort circuit, known for being a stronghold of Max Verstappen, witnessed a new winner cross the finish line, while the Red Bull Dutchman had to settle for a secondary role in his 200th race in F1. The start was a crucial moment, with Norris reacting well but losing the lead to Verstappen at the first corner. However, the recovery was quick and impressive. From the 12th lap onwards, Norris began to close the gap to Verstappen, who was experiencing problems with tire grip and difficulties with the car at turn 10. The decisive overtake came on the 18th lap, with Norris passing Verstappen and taking the lead that he would hold until the end with a lead of more than 22 seconds and the best lap coming on his last opportunity. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc completed the podium in third place, holding off Oscar Piastri in the final laps of the race. This result marks Ferrari's 26th podium at Zandvoort, maintaining the track record. Norris' victory was not only a personal achievement, but also a milestone for McLaren, which saw its driver convert a pole position into victory for the first time after 3 failed attempts. The Dutch GP was a spectacle of strategy and skill, with Norris demonstrating a performance worthy of a champion. Formula One is now preparing for the next challenge on the calendar, the Italian Grand Prix, where the drivers will have another chance to shine and fight for victory. We still have a lot to talk about with the latest F1 news, but first I'd like to remind you to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more quality content like this. Why did Norris win? What did he do that was so good? What is McLaren hiding? McLaren demonstrated remarkable technical superiority with significant upgrades to the MCL38, including a redesign of the floor that increased downforce at the front of the car, especially in low-speed corners. This, combined with a new, wider and shallower radiator intake, allowed for better body shaping and improved aerodynamics around the front edge of the floor. Perhaps this information seems like just another matter of improving the car like any other, but it means much more than that. Remember when we talked about the controversy over the asymmetric brakes, which were banned in Formula One? Well, the main reason teams used asymmetric brakes was to get to the point of having exactly what McLaren has achieved with its new upgrades. This is because the new Formula One cars tend to come off the front naturally in low-speed corners, as the ground effect of the cars since 2022 tends to generate more pressure at the front than at the rear. When cornering at high speed, the front wing and chassis adjustments do their job well, but in low-speed corners, the tendency is for the pressure to decrease on the wings and the car to run off the front. So the teams try to regulate the car with maximum grip at the front through the chassis and front wing so that they can increase the ground effect even more on the high-speed parts of the track, but this causes an imbalance in the low-speed parts, which makes the cars much more skittish. Thus, asymmetric braking comes into play, as it would allow the teams to reduce the grip on the front of the car, which would make the single-seater less risky in the low-speed section, while increasing ride comfort. However, McLaren's new updates have managed to achieve a very similar point by balancing the aerodynamic pressure coming from the ground effect at the front and rear of the car, especially in low-speed corners, which in addition to increasing the balance of the MCL38, doesn't bring any disadvantages, as there is no significant increase in drag, since the efficiency of the ground effect is much greater than that of the front and rear wings. Meanwhile, Verstappen struggled with tire grip during the race, reporting a feeling of anesthesia that prevented him from maintaining the pace needed to compete with Norris. Red Bull seemed to put in a solid performance in practice, but were unable to translate this into results in the race, with Verstappen unable to respond to the advance of Norris and the McLaren. But anyone who follows the channel will know that we've been talking since the start of the weekend about the signs that Verstappen is behind McLaren in absolutely every respect, losing up to 0.5 s per lap in race pace and also being slower than Norris in qualifying pace since Friday. The truth is that apparently, the RB20 seems to have reached its limit, and Red Bull, which seems to have chosen not to change the team that was winning, has now started to lose out to a competitor that has decided to change and innovate with its car that started the new era of regulations as one of the worst traditional teams in Formula One. The Woking team seems to have found the formula for success, and with the season still half over, anything is possible. Competition not only in the Constructors' Championship, but also in the Drivers' Championship in 2024. This race was able to show us several unusual situations and, above all, worrying ones for some teams, such as Red Bull, and encouraging ones for others, such as McLaren. But what matters most is how the two championships should look in 2024, we know that after several controversies, Sergio Perez will still remain at Red Bull until the end of this year. The Mexican driver, who promised a significant improvement after the summer break, returned with only a 6th place, equivalent to 1 position better than the last GP, in Belgium. With a result like this, which can be considered a small improvement, Red Bull has nevertheless reduced its gap to McLaren in the Constructors' Championship to 30 points. This result goes far beyond the expectations of any expert, commentator or sports enthusiast, as it was expected that McLaren would only be able to overtake Red Bull at the end of the year. But if the results are the same, in just 3 races, McLaren will overtake Red Bull in the points. However, as we know, the Dutch GP didn't provide perfect moments for the British team's 2 drivers, as Piastri suffered behind Leclerc for much of the race and couldn't overtake him, as the circuit didn't make it easy to do so. This may have prevented the possibility of a podium finish and, what's more, limited Piastri's chances of trying to overtake Verstappen, who clearly had a worse pace than the McLaren. In other words, if the chances of overtaking had been greater, Red Bull would probably have lost even more points, much to the despair of the Austrian team. But it doesn't stop there. As we know, Red Bull has 180 hours less wind tunnel time than McLaren, and its engineers have already begun to indicate in interviews that they would need to design a car from scratch in order to extract better performance. The RB20 is an outdated car by 2024. And this becomes even more tragic when we see the interviews with McLaren's directors stating that several updates and adjustments are coming to the MCL38, indicating that there is still a lot to be extracted from the vehicle. What's more, Oscar Piastri is tending more and more to achieve better qualifying laps and better positions in races, mainly because he's demonstrating that he's still finding the best setup for the car. And therein lies the most worrying part of the video for Red Bull fans. Last year, Max Verstappen finished the championship with a 290-point lead over runner-up Sergio Perez, meaning he had an average lead of 12.6 points per race over his teammate and 14.8 points over third-placed Lewis Hamilton. The point is, if McLaren managed to make Lando Norris win every race until the end of 2024 and put Oscar Piastri in 2nd place in just 6 races, even if Verstappen scored as many points as possible, adding up the best laps, Norris would open up an average of 8 points per race and win the championship with 2 points ahead of Verstappen. Of course, this is a long way off in a way, but after McLaren's dominance in the Dutch GP, the validation of the new updates and the promise of new parts together with a better understanding of the car, we can't rule out the possibility. If Verstappen was able to open up an average of 12.6 points on his teammate who had the same equipment as him, imagine what a driver can do if he has a far superior car and a teammate capable of keeping up with him until the end of the year like Norris has Piastri in his team. Let us know what you think about the news so far. And if you haven't yet liked the video and subscribed to the channel, do so now so you don't miss out on the latest Formula 1 news. Also, don't forget to comment on the content itself, so that we can improve our work for you more and more.